Okay, for placement 4, we've separated the logbook into the acute placement and the mental health placement. So 4A, which is the first video that I'm going to do, is the acute placement that you'll be undertaking for 2 weeks. I'm going to focus just on the observation checklist for this placement. So in keeping with Cluster 6, this placement directly relates to the units of competencies covered in Cluster 6. So contribute to nursing care of a person with complex needs. So you've learned a lot more complex skills in this cluster. Some of them are listed there, for example, which you've done in the sim lab. So ECGs, indwelling catheters, venipuncture, um, underwater seal drains, those sorts of things. So more complex skills. So for this unit of competency, students will be required to complete, analyse and planned and evaluated care for 3 people with complex needs, okay? So you can see there's person 1, person 2 and person 3. The observation checklists are below, but this is your checklist to make sure you get everything done that you need to get done whilst you're on this 2-week placement, okay? I'll go into more detail about those checklists as we scroll down. Obviously, there's the usual reflections that come with it. And also you can see there you need to empty and change your catheter bag. I'll explain that further down. Here we have the palliative care unit, which is basically you will be required to care for one person, apply a palliative approach for one person in the workplace. So that person their palliative needs may be from different, like they don't necessarily have to be suffering from terminal illness. They could have a long-term chronic and palliative condition. Okay, so the end of life checklist is a bit more complicated, and we will be providing students with a scenario that they will be aware of and know about before going on placement that we'll be doing in a simulation scenario on placement if there's no opportunities to care for someone during that period in their life. Okay, so that will be explained in more detail. So this first checklist here is the one that I mentioned. So demonstrate the ability to analyse, plan, evaluate care for 3 different people with quite complex needs. So using their health information, their clinical presentation to determine the best nursing interventions in consultation with the RN that you're working with. So, what makes this person's condition complex, and why do we need to evaluate certain things? Like you might need to look at their pathology, you might need to look at their understanding of their personal needs and goals of care, as well as any issues that come up with their actual acute care requirements. So once again, you'll be required to complete a reflection using the Rolf reflection model. So identify a patient you're caring for that has complex needs. And so what was complex about that person? Okay, so when we say complex, we mean someone that's complicated, has more intricate healthcare needs or multiple things that you need to be managing at the same time. What were some nursing interventions that you did to make that person's health outcomes, to meet that person's health outcomes? And so 2 of those. And what health information did you use that led to making those nursing interventions? Okay, so how did you make that decision? What did you base it on? And then again, this is the same thing here, okay, for all the 3 people that you need to provide care for. So that's really got to be done on this placement. It's really important that you identify the 3 patients you're going to use, get them signed off and write your reflections. Try and get that done as soon as you can. This one here is basically about emptying and changing one catheter drainage bag. So there's a difference between emptying a bag, so that's just emptying the actual chamber, whereas when you change a bag, which is part B, that's actually disconnecting the whole bag and putting on a new bag. So that's usually done at set intervals for different patients and is usually under a hospital protocol. So that would be you would be really needing to ask the nurse in charge or the nurse that you're working with to ask the nurse in charge who is scheduled for a bag change, a catheter bag change, and that whether you can do it, because otherwise you won't get an opportunity unless you seek this one out. Okay, you need to seek it out. This is done regularly, emptying the drainage bag, but changing the bag is something you'll need to check when you can complete it. Here we have the palliative care checklist. And so using palliative approach to care for a person in the workplace. So it's thinking about their spiritual, emotional, cultural needs, liaising with the registered nurse to make sure that you're meeting the requirements for the person, such as understanding the pathological changes, care that they require for their condition. Could be someone with chronic heart failure, terminal, that's, basically life terminal. So that person will require support for, oxygen therapy and other medications to help them maintain their independence. Same here. So it's a reflection that you need to describe how you fulfilled your role, as well as the nursing practice that you contributed to make that person's health outcomes. Describe how you interacted with their family or with their carers. This is the end of life checklist that I explained will have a scripted scenario for you to undertake whilst on placement. This will be done in the hospital setting in a simulated scenario. So students will, it is highly unlikely that you'll be able to care for a person at this end of life stage. If that happens, then that will be obviously working very, very closely with the registered nurse that you're working with. If not, though, we certainly have a scenario prepared that we will be introducing to you before you go on placement. This is a statement here that you did not get an opportunity, and then the person from VFA will be signing off to verify that. And as previously explained, Section F explains where our student is clinically not meeting the requirements and what we would do to address that, working collaboratively with the hospital. You can see here the process. Set SMART goals by the facilitator. The student must meet these goals. If they're deemed not to have met them, then the student will go on a learning contract and VFA will become involved, and then VFA will undertake an independent review to assess that student's competence and safety in the workplace and whether they should be withdrawn from placement. So this section here is all the same as what the other placement logbooks are, whereby we have some space there for any in-services that you attend, and then obviously submission of the book. Okay, there is a section here for any students that didn't complete any checklists whilst on placement 3. These appendices are basically just in case they were unwell during placement and didn't get a chance to get all of their checklists signed off for cluster 5. Otherwise, that's it.